Hi, Kiko.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Great. Oh, before we get into the show, I just wanted to get some information from you about where your relationship with San Antonio. Do you have a home here still? Do you still call San Antonio home? How much do you go into the bakery? Things like that.
Yes, obviously I was born in San Antonio. My
Right.
dad still lives there. My godparents still live there. My family's all there. I don't have a home there now because when we opened Dallas, I was spending more time at our other locations. But
Hmm.
I'm there at least once a month. I was there last week, and then our my relationship with San Antonio just got deeper. I have the craziest story to Kiko. My kids fell in love with this dog. Okay. And the lady was like, I'll give you the breeder's number, but she's like very picky about who gets the dogs.
Okay.
So call her and don't ask her any questions. And I was like, okay. Like for all I knew, this lady was in Korea. I didn't know, right? Like
It already sounds sus.
right, but she like we have to like audition for this dog.
Yeah.
So I called her. I was like on my best behavior. Yes, would be a wonderful dog owner. These are my children. They have a vision board asking for this dog. Like, please, like basically just like begging at her mercy. And then in the end, felt like I was finally allowed to ask a question. And I said, could I ask, where you're located? Wondering, like, am I going to fly to Michigan? Where am I going to get this dog? And she said, well, right now I'm just picking up some prescriptions at HEB. And I was like, where? Where? And she's like, right here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm on Lincoln Heights, just getting a prescription. I was
That's
like,
funny.
ma'am. And I was meant to go to San Antonio the very next morning to be at the bakery.
Right.
And I'm like, this is like such a full circle moment. So I was going anyway to go to the bakery the next day, and I went and got pick of the litter, like the first choice of this like precious, precious dog. But she was in Spring Branch. And
Oh,
it was just like, I was like, God really wants me to have this dog. God was like winking, being like, of all the places she could be, she's right there in Alamo Heights. So
that's
yeah,
awesome. What kind of
yeah.
dog?
She's a teacup maltipoo. She's
Oh,
really,
okay. Yeah. Very
really
cool. Is that your kid's first dog, or do y'all have others?
We had one when they were born, and he's now like 15.
Oh,
And
wow.
when we moved to the Cayman Islands, he couldn't come with us, so we went to stay on a friend's farm. And now he's just like an old man who bites, and I can't have him around the kids. He's just like grumpy and he's happy on the.
Grumpy.
So he's welcome to come back anytime, but like, the biting dogs are not great with young kids.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, very cool. So do you call the Cayman Islands home now, or where do you
No, no,
call
I'm in LA.
in LA?
So
Okay.
we moved back to LA in September, and we did spend quite a while, and we spent almost 5 years in Cayman. We went for COVID. I say stay for a divorce, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
moved back to LA on in September, and we're happy to be home.
very
The
cool.
island life is great. It's beautiful, but it's hard to work there. I know
Oh,
how
I
to do
bet.
two things. I know
I
how to
bet.
own restaurants and do television, and I did what I could do there, and then I had to come home.
Well, I'm sure Cayman Islands needs a good pastries every so often.
No, I know we did. I opened a bird there.
Oh, you
I opened,
did? I didn't
I
realize
did.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, very
I
cool.
told literally, Kiko, I know how to do two things in this life. And that I did it. I did them both there. So I opened a bakery there. It's just great, but it's seasonal, right? So like everyone leaves for the summer. It's a small,
Right.
so it was amazing and people loved it. Like I brought our team from San Antonio down. They got to enjoy island life while they were training our chefs. It was awesome. It was
What
really
is your
great.
favorite? What is your favorite thing to get at the bakery for yourself as a sweet?
Gosh, I mean all of it, but our California turkey, and I do it EC style, which is our California turkey toasted, extra, extra, extra raspberry chipotle mayo. I do extra onions, which everyone's like, don't like tell people that you. I love extra. It's like red slice. They're like the thinly sliced onions,
Right,
which I
right.
and then I do extra avocado as well. And then I love our tomato basil soup. It's dairy free,
Oh,
gluten
nice.
free. It's made with organic coconut milk. So I tell people it's basically like you're drinking a smoothie, but it tastes like it's made with that heavy cream.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I
And
love
I
that.
know people loved like La Madeleine's tomato basil soup, and La Madeleine's closed now. I'm like, you guys are sleeping on ours. Just go a little bit up Broadway. Ours is the best.
But yeah,
Um,
that Madeline soup it has a lot of calories.
it does. Ours doesn't, and you would never know the difference.
There you go.
And then I love our carrot cake. It's a cake my grandmother always made for me. My mom always made it for my birthday. And I always say like carrot cake. A lot of times people say, oh, it's carrot cake and it's orange and it has like some shredded carrots and it's just sad. Ours has walnuts, golden raisins, shredded coconut, crushed pineapple. It's delicious.
Mm.
Obviously shredded carrots, but like freshly shredded. And then when we take it out of the oven, we put a buttermilk glaze on top. and let the buttermilk glaze seep in. And then we do
Goodness.
citrus cream cheese butter frosting on top. It
All
is
right. I haven't
the
had
best.
lunch yet, so I'm sold.
Well, come on over. Are you in San Antonio right
I
now?
am. I'm in San Antonio.
We'll get your little bum to the bakery, and I'll make sure your lunch is comped.
Awesome. Hey, so Elizabeth, get into toxic. So, what initially drew you to the series, and why did you feel it was important to be involved in telling these women's stories?
You know, Kiko, this was like such a pivotal moment and a privilege for me because I wasn't drawn to the series. Like I created it.
Mm,
And I've never been able to create a show from scratch before that is my baby. It was actually very similar to creating Bird. I always say that Bird Bakery was my first baby because it was before I had babies, but
hmm.
this felt very much the same in terms of, you know, building something that didn't exist before. Jason Sarlanis, who is an incredible mastermind. He was a producer of mine at 20 years ago,
Right.
and he now runs Discovery, and he's just a genius. And he came to my agent and said, "I want her to do a show that's really meaningful based on her recent experiences."
Hmm.
And when I was going through my divorce, first of all, like I'm a very traditional person, right? I love family. I love children. I love generations of like joy, Christmas cards. Like, you've never met a more like basic traditional bee than I am. Like, I love all that stuff so much. So when you realize, I'm going to leave a marriage, um, and I'm basically considering like a dissolution of everything that I ever wanted and dreamed of,
Hmm.
that's a huge deal. And obviously, it's a huge deal for me, but more importantly, it was for my children. I was like, divorce in of itself is trauma, right? So how do I make this decision that I know is best for
Right.
me long term and for my children so they don't become this or accept this later in
Right.
life, um, while mitigating the trauma? And so what that looks like for me was, again, as a journalist, you understand, is doing research, right?
Right.
So how do you mitigate trauma during a divorce? And that meant for me, like making appointments with family separation therapists. These are
Mm,
experts, right? Who else is an expert? There's not a manual. No one knows your kids. No one knows you. No one knows the situation.
right.
So like, what do you do? And I spoke to every family separation therapist that would take a call with me.
Mm,
Um, and I booked an hour with everyone I could find, from the Hasidic Jewish special, like lady that everybody goes to on the Upper East Side, to a lady in Kentucky, to a lady in Denmark, to a doctor in Russia. Like, and obviously there are cultural differences.
right.
No one knows my kids, no one knows me, no one knows my situation, but it's kind of like anything that you do for work, right? Like you do the research and then and then I took what worked for me and I took what I could from that. And in that process, what I really learned was about generational patterns,
Hmm.
which I was hoping to end there,
Right.
like there had been infidelity in many generations before that I was a little bit aware of, but not completely.
Right.
Uh, and just looking at my kids, like I don't want my son to continue this. I don't want my daughter to be in a relationship like this. And then looking at my own patterns, looking at my behavior, what does that look like? So really, it was like a year of therapy in many different forms and fashion, and then a year of really just building out this knowledge that my kids could use in their toolbox later. Like they were
Mm,
3 and 5, they were very young when we moved, and then 4 and 6 when I filed. So
right.
they were still so young, but what I was hoping to do is like build this arsenal of toolbox that I could at least parent them through. So when they are older, they have really like, those skills and that skill set to make the good decisions and to make the right choices and to break generational patterns and trauma. So that's why I became obsessed with the show, because we see Dateline, we see true crime, we see all these shows, and you see like the cold cases and you see the end results. But like, what was the prequel, right?
Right.
Like, what got them there? And then I started, chatting with my friends. When you're divorced, you have time to chat with a lot of your single friends and a lot of your married friends that are not happy. And I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much happening here that no one's talking about. Um, and ultimately, like, I realized a lot of it was the messaging that we're given through like Disney films, through, 17 magazine. It's like, learn to give the best blowjob. So he puts, sorry, but
That's
like,
right.
learn to do this. So, so he marries you. Like, why are we trying to
Right.
audition for people to marry us?
Look for
And
the prince,
correct.
charming.
Yeah, it's like someone's going to rescue you. No one, like all this messaging that we're given is wild. So we created Toxic. We created a show that is true crime about relationships that are toxic that end tragically. Um,
Hmm.
And I didn't want to do anything that couldn't help people, right? So like my goal in the show is for it to help everyone. Like I want everyone to end every episode asking themselves, am I in this relationship? Is my sister in this relationship? Could my kids be in a relationship like this? And also looking for the micro messaging as well. Like maybe it's not so obvious as like you're being silenced about this in a big way by a narcissist, but like maybe there are little things in your marriages or in your relationships at work or in your relationships with your friends that are micro red flags
Right.
that like are not healthy communication.
Yeah.
So really, this show comes down to humanity, to relationships, to patterns, to, our families. I think our parents and our grandparents, like they kind of brushed things under the rug and they wanted everything to look great. They didn't speak candidly about their happiness. And I get like not everyone's going to be happy all the time, but like were they truly content? Were they heard? Were they living their life to the fullest?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
ultimately, like that's what this show comes down to, right? It's like living your dash. I always say, like, you know the date you're born, you don't know the date you're gonna die, but like that dash in between on your tombstone, on your obituary, like I want that dash to be like pixelated and happy and healthy and saturated and beautiful and joyful. And like obviously it's not gonna be joyful all the time, but you have to put things in place in your relationships to ensure that you are being heard, that you're having, healthy communication. And so our show is like an extreme example as to how that can go so wrong. But there are so many ways to make it right in different spaces and different formats in your life. So
That's awesome.
it was just like, oh, I love it so much. And it was just like a dream job. It is a dream job and it's just a dream show for me. And I just, every single person on the show, I love you. You understand this. Like, I could have made it that it's just an interview. I go, I sit in a room, read some questions and get on a plane.
Right.
Oh, like I stayed in Baltimore for a week. I got to know the families. I went to dinner at their house. It's like, you can't really tell these long format stories without
Without
that.
diving deep into it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's such a privilege to be able to do that because with schedules and turnarounds and budgets, like rarely do you actually get to do that work. And I feel so grateful and it was such a privilege. And now I just want to share it with as many people as possible.
Awesome. So it must feel really good to return to your journalistic roots. But how did you balance like having empathy for these women and being professional when speaking to survivors of such emotionally intense experiences? How do you
I'm
balance?
so, yeah, that's a very good question because like, obviously you're sobbing and you want to hug, you're hugging them, but you
Right.
also at the end of the day, like as a journalist, you have to tell a balanced story, right? Like I said, we need to reach out to every single one of these perpetrators for comment, or like I made sure that like there was a chance to tell that side of the story in terms of just like a balance, because I mean, at the same time, the egregious experiences that they went through, like you almost don't want to, but as you know, like you have to give both sides of the story a chance to tell. And then just in terms of it being there, like we really saved that for off camera. I had to
Mhm.
be and at the end, like I needed them to tell their story to in a very as like subjectively as possible.
Right.
As subjectively as possible. Like I needed them, sorry, I needed them to tell their story in a safe space where they felt heard. But like, this couldn't be like I'm crying, they're crying, which I felt like I
Right.
wanted it to be a lot of the time. But that's a really good question because people write the weirdest things online. Some people are like, oh my gosh, she's lacking so much empathy. And I'm like, I was literally like
Yeah. You're
trying
like
to
holding it
keep my
off.
tears back, trying to be a professional journalist. Like, I
Right.
don't know how, like, no empathy was lacked at all. And like, ask any of my women. Like, I talk to all their families, I talk to all of them every day. I care so deeply about them. But, like, you can't win on the internet. So,
Yeah, exactly. So
so
how
yeah.
did you prepare yourself emotionally? I mean, you're talking about taking care of them, but I'm sure you also had to take care of yourself. So when these interviews come up that involve trauma and heartbreak and manipulation, what did you have to do in your own mind to get ready for those interviews?
I mean, you're doing it for them, right? And some of them aren't with us. And so I think you have to think of it and approach it as doing it for the potential of like saving somebody from being in that same situation, right? Like if I'm if I'm taking that on too much, I'm not going to be able to tell the story well, and I'm not going to be able to ask certain questions. Like it's really difficult to sit there and ask a woman who has had her life like burned to the ground almost was murdered and say, why are you still living in this house where you were almost killed? And
Mm,
why didn't you walk away? Like that can feel really disrespectful and that can feel really judgmental,
right,
right? Like, but also it's the question that everyone's asking. Like you were almost murdered in your own home, and now we're walking through it where your head was put through drywall
right.
and you go to sleep in this room every night. Like, why? And that is the question. But like, it cannot be from a judgmental place, and it shouldn't be because if you are so deep in that sort of coercive relationship, you cannot see the forest from the trees.
Right.
So it's really just understanding the psychology behind how you get so deep, and it can happen to anyone. And I think that that's the thing. Like, it's not judgmental, and it's not like anything other than the fact that this could be anyone. This
Yeah.
could be anyone because their techniques are so strong and strategic. And, I always say if you open a door 10 times and someone punches you, you're not going to open the door again. If you open the door 10 times and every other time someone hugs you and loves you and affirms you, you're going to keep opening that door.
Yeah.
And
You're
that's what these people do. And so you can't judge anyone. Like you can't, because it could be you. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I answered your question, but I prepared
yeah.
myself understanding that it could be anyone I know and love, or could be me in the wrong hands.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And you brought up a good topic, and I'll wrap this up in a bit. But I just wanted to know, like, what do you think viewers often misunderstand about the dynamics of toxic relationships? Like, people are going to watch this show, and I'm sure you've heard it. Like, this could never happen to me, right? And you just brought that up. Like, what do you say to someone who watches that and thinks that?
Well, I would say if you examine your life closely, you probably see little micro examples of this all around.
Hmm.
And again, no one is immune to it. And again, it's our messaging. Like we're taught to just be grateful when someone loves us, right? We're
Mm,
not taught to have those boundaries from day one. Like that's just not a conversation that people have. It's like, what are these boundaries? Like, oh my God, I met this guy online. He did this, he did that. He knew what flowers my grandmother liked. He did this, he did his research. He loves hiking. Does he love hiking? Have you checked with his friend group? Does he have a friend group? Has he always loved hiking? Or did he just go on Facebook and see that you love hiking? Um,
mm,
it's like I love romance and I love love more than anyone, but it's being discerning with your dating, and it's being discerning with the people you're with. And again, that goes beyond just romantic relationships. But yeah, I think like there's so much to unpack. And again, we're showing extreme examples of how that can
right.
happen. But if you do sort of the work backwards, the show, I mean, our demographic is every living, breathing human because it's
Mm.
people who have dated, people who are dating, and people who will date, and people who are in any relationships. And unless you're like a recluse, this show is for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think San Antonio was voted one of the worst cities in the nation for dating and for single people. So,
Well,
um,
let's change that. Let's get some boundaries in place and get some dates happening. Bird Bakery can be the Bumble meetup spot.
I love it. I love it. Hey, so one last question before I let you go. How does your role as a mother influence the way that you approach conversations about healthy relationships? Like you talked about how you want to break the cycle. So, I know your kids are still young, but do you start now with that?
Of course. No, that's such a great question. I mean, if you just look at our last episode, Kate Ranta was staying in a relationship, and it took a child protective service officer to say, if you don't leave him, I'm taking your child away, right? So
Hmm.
we do things for our kids that we wouldn't do for ourselves. And we
Right.
see that even right when we're pregnant. Like I like to eat Bird Bakery chocolate chip cookies for breakfast. Am I going to do that when I'm pregnant? No. But because we like give our children more than we'll give ourselves. So for me, it's just basically like looking at these patterns, understanding that certain things have happened on, both sides of the family that haven't served us. So what is like it ends now. It ends with us. We break those patterns because now we have the knowledge, and now we are equipped, and now we can do the work, and we can do the therapy, and we can do like my kids are, I think therapy is amazing. And
Hmm.
I am such a supporter of like everyone being in with the right therapist as
Right.
much as they can afford it or as much as it feels right. But I just think we know too much now to look the other way. So my kids are everything in this. Like they were really the impetus for this show. Because like, yes, we do everything we can as parents. We, feed them the best food we can. We give the best education. We try to steer them in the right direction. And
Right.
ultimately, like if they end up in the hands of somebody like the perpetrators on toxic, would like where like they could die. Like it's just as dangerous as them putting them by the pool when they can't swim. It's the equivalent of that.
Right.
So
Right.
it's our duty and our responsibility to arm them with the tools so they can navigate relationships later in life and have healthy communication.
Definitely. I want to bring my kids in here so they can hear that message. They're still young too, but why are you taking my phone away from me, my 13-year-old daughter? That type of thing. It's
Oh,
like,
the
we're doing
phones
it
and
for your
the
own
iPads
good, right?
are literally the bane of my existence. I mean, I literally I just now you have to just remove them. It's the worst. They're
Right.
addicted. But and they're not and they're seeing that messaging of like look pretty. Do they get ready
Yeah.
with me? For what? Is it for yourself? Like all of that messaging is just it continues to be toxic. So
Yeah.
it's our job to if we can't model it, I mean modeling that behavior in our relationships, respecting our partner, speaking to them kindly, not having these microaggressions or micro like imbalances. And then talking to the kids, talking to
Right.
our children and like what it means to respect and communicate healthfully. So I'm, as you can see, Kiko, like obsessed and very passionate about all of this
No,
because
definitely.
it's truly, it comes down to parenting. I
Right.
mean, it does. It comes down to modeling and parenting and not accepting anything that we wouldn't want our kids to accept.
Right.
Um, like look at them. Like imagine raising, you have two, right?
I have a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine like, gosh, we go from like making sure they make it out of the womb to making sure they're not like SIDS in the first year to making sure they don't like we feel like we get these milestones of, like making sure they're alive, making sure they're alive, making sure they're alive. And guess what? Tina Harris in episode 3 did the same thing. And then what does her daughter do? Falls in love with an oral surgeon who kills her in 8 months. Like part of our parenting
Mm-hmm.
is to talk about healthy communication, conversations, and what a healthy partnership looks like and
Right.
what the boundaries look like, and making sure that they have the confidence that they don't need another person. They're not looking for a partner. They're not waiting for Prince Charming to come rescue them because they're going to focus on themselves. They're going to be financially responsible. And if somebody can be an added value or asset, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But we're
What?
not doing like what our grandparents did. It was like getting married at friggin' 19 and being locked in because you have no way out. Like that's not happening.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Thank you
definitely.
for attending my TED Talk, Kiko. No, I'm like so passionate about it.
That's so awesome. That's no, I love it. I love it. I hope you get a season 2 whenever that decision comes down the pike. But
Yeah.
we're really excited for you, and we can't wait to tell more people about the show if they haven't seen it yet.
Thank you so much. And if you want to go to Bird for lunch, just text Denise can connect us. I'll have it ready for you.
I appreciate it, Elizabeth. Thank you very much, and you have
Thank
a good
you.
rest of your week.
You too, Kiko.
All right.
Take care.